All right. Hello, everyone. I'm BlueStar Dear Woman, and today my guest is Ariel Clark. And we have a very special message that we want to share with you because we feel the experience we're going to speak to you about is something that we feel others may really be able to be helped by. Okay? So, where I'm going to begin is Ariel and I are spending time together right now, and we're mostly spending time in the outdoors. And Ariel has been classified with, tell me again, Ariel, what you just said.
Intensive brain injury and epilepsy.
All right, and that was one of the reasons that the two of us came together. And because I'm in a sanctuary in a rural environment, Ariel has always expressed that's the environment that she feels most comfortable in. And so I was well aware that Ariel could potentially have a seizure at any given moment. And I had only witnessed you having a seizure once. And just like many of you, my understanding of being with someone with a seizure is, hopefully they don't fall to the ground. Hopefully you help them comfortably get to the ground, that they're laying prone in some way. And if it's a severe seizure, you make sure that they're not biting or biting their tongue or holding their teeth really tight. Well, the seizure that I witnessed with you was a fairly moderate one. She did lay down, and then I watched the usual movement of the body. Okay, so and I had been around other people having seizures, so I had only witnessed Ariel having one seizure. So I'm going to introduce an experience that we had the other day. And I'm very excited to get to the place where Ariel is going to share her story because we are both feeling very honored to have had this experience. So Ariel and I do physical work, and I'm a groundskeeper at the Open Air Meditation Sanctuary in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. And we were at a site 12, that has lots of big rocks, and part of the groundskeeping is we take the leaves out of the rocks, we rake, we trim, and things like that. Well, Ariel was working on one of the rocks, and what I noted in her physical body, she was twisted, almost like a yoga position. She was twisted, and she was taking leaves out in that position. And I was working about 20 feet away. And then I just sensed to turn around. When I turned around, Ariel was still twisted, and her arm was waving. Let me see if I can get that in the camera. It was waving as if she was making an effort to stand up. I immediately knew that she was in seizure, but I didn't understand that I could sense she was wanting to stand up. I very gently went over to her. She's in full seizure now. And and I just quietly said, I'm here, it's okay. And I put my hand very gently on her shoulder like this. And when I did, she grabbed my hand and immediately used my body to get herself upright. And no sooner did Ariel get upright, and I'm like, I didn't have time to think. I was just going with the flow. I no sooner did she stand up, and boom, she started walking down the trail and walking very quickly. And I'm like, okay, I'm with someone who's in full seizure, and she's walking almost like a run walk. Okay, now the trails here at the sanctuary are not easy trails. They're rocky, they're a little bit hilly. She's cruising. So and now this is the thing that I've been waiting to share this. I mean, we've talked a little bit, but that's why we're here, because we feel it's so important to share. I'm not thinking, I'm just going with the flow. And it was very clear to me that there was an energetic of some essence, all right, of Ariel, absolutely knew where she was going, was totally competent, of the trail, and I watched her. We have trails where you can go left, right, or forward, and there were real deliberate turns, real deliberate choices, and then finally, I don't know, we must have walked fast for about 15 minutes. I was out of breath, and I'm pretty active. We come to a site, we call it Site 10. And by this point, just shortly before, Ariel had let go of my hand. Now understand, she's not communicating, and that part of the seizure is pretty typical. There's no communication, and I knew not to ask questions. I knew that there was something in charge here. We get to the site, and Ariel comes to a dead stop, stands there, and takes a big sigh, like she found it. The spirit and energy of her being knew, oh, this is where I wanted to be. And we have these huge rocks you can lay on. She looked around, she chose a rock to the left, promptly sat down, laid down, and I knew that now she was going into the rest phase that you typically see after a seizure. All right? I knew she was resting, and I got quiet with her. I chose a rock to the right. I laid down, and the sun was out that day. I laid down, and I just started to rest. And while I was resting, I dropped into a deep meditation. And I'm going to share this, and then I'm going to proceed with Ariel's articulation of this experience. I'm laying there, and a voice within me, a voice that I'm familiar with, my own self, all right, what I like to call either my higher self, my soul, but definitely my spirit essence, started talking. And then I heard another voice. And I knew it was the higher self of Ariel. So here are the two divines, one in each of us, are having a conversation. And the first thing that Ariel's spirit says to me is, I had one moment when I saw Ariel just in the beginning going to seizure. The only thought that went through my head was she was torqued enough in her body that what I heard was, for 1 nanosecond, blood didn't go to her brain, and that's what triggered her into seizure, okay? After that, I wasn't thinking. I was just in autopilot with Ariel. Her spirit says to me, you're accurate. There was a nanosecond of blood not going to the brain, and that is what triggered the seizure. Then she proceeds to tell me, she says, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the configuration of Ariel's physical body. It's perfect. It was intended that way. That in order for this divine spirit to eventually be fully integrated in her physicality, that the body, the way it is operating with the brain effect, was necessary. The energy is so gentle that it can only begin to come in increments. There was more conversation, and I'll probably remember it as we interview with each other. But basically, the divine, and then then this is an important part. Site 10 at the sanctuary is each of the sites at the Om Sanctuary are specifically invoked with certain energetics and affirmations. Site 10 holds the energy of, we recognize that there are subtle energies like the plant divas, the fairies, and spirits, that there's a very subtle energy, and that when we go to Site 10, they're there to bring our thoughts and desires and dreams into the physical, into manifestation. So Ariel's spirit says to me, yes, Ariel knew this was the site together that we were trying to find, because we knew that the energetics of this site were the most conducive to the spirit coming inside of the body. And we also knew that you, BlueStar, dear woman, that this was a site that you recognized in that way. And so if both of you were here, it might give you the opportunity to have this communication. This is not a communication Ariel has had, and yet she wants it. And it was, yeah, you were kind of set up to do this. So that's a significant piece as well. And then what happened, after about 15, 20 minutes of resting, Ariel sat up. It was clear she looked like trying to orient herself. And I just quietly said to her, excuse me, I said, "It's okay, I'm here, Ariel." And then she looked at me and I said, "Are you fully back?" She said, "Yes, I am." And I knew that she probably needed water. I said, "Do you need water now?" She says, "Yes, I do." I said, "Okay, I think we left it at the site. Are you ready to walk?" She said, "Yes, I can." We started to walk back to site 12, and then both of us realized neither of us had brought our water down. It was up at the house. I said, "Can you walk up at the house?" She said, "Yes." We got up to the house. There was a chair by our sacred fire. I said, "Why don't you just sit here? I'll go to the porch and get our water." And then that's the point at which I began conversation with Ariel, and I said, "Okay," I shared with her what I just shared with you. And then we proceeded to have conversation. So now I'd like to invite Ariel to share whatever's moving through you that happened from this experience.
Yes, this was almost like an answer to my dreams, because at home I felt so tied up, and my mom would always prolong those seizures. But I decided to ask someone else to talk to me and help me. And I even heard myself saying thank you for a dose of gentle compassion to move through this wonderful observation that all my neurologists have failed to see. And I heard myself just thanking dear woman for the reassurance that she was giving me. I heard my inner spirit telling me that God is my rock and my tower of safety. He will be that to you when you need him. And I was looking for a special form of energy that would get me back on my feet so I could go to a place that could tend to my needs much better. And I just wanted to see if I could get someone else to experience the gifts of how fast I love to go, how fast I need to respond when that tinge of a second that blood or oxygen can't get to my brain. And I just loved bringing someone else to that level of communication. And it was just amazing that it almost took my breath away. And even after I came out of the seizure, my spirit was just saying, wow, in such deep gratitude. And I asked my inner spirit to help me be safe and to just go with the flow like dear woman was. And I asked her while I was in that seizure, are you honored to be a tool that God is demonstrating a little love? And that was just really peaceful to hear that she was. And the exchange of that love gave me insight to just share my energy and open my heart. I didn't have to block off all the words and uncertainties that my mom would share every day. And I felt a coat of peace just dressing all my emotional blows that triggered the seizure in the first place. And I took the liberty after that seizure was over and in rest state to just give thanks and praise to God and praise to somebody that I've been searching for 38 years. And when I get a chance to give to my friends in my community, like helping Station 12 to even look more beautiful, I guarantee you my energy will come back tenfold, because I've just let go of those handcuffs that the people that share so much doubt and uncertainty will just get me running as fast as I can. Mm. It really kept me laughing all weekend.
I have been in just this elated state, and I want to reaffirm that, like what Ariel shared, is we both recognized how honored we were, because it was both our divine selves that were interacting and communicating. And something that Ariel said to me in our conversation afterwards, she says, after she has seizure, she feels an incredible amount of energy. And her spirit was talking to me while we were having the conversation. And her spirit said to me that the heightened energy is that the divine has gotten to come into her body, into her physicality a little bit more. And that's where the upliftment is actually occurring. And it was just amazing because, again, I want to remind you, Ariel was in complete seizure, but I knew that there was an awareness that knew that body had to move. And the movement is her integration. That's her healing. But all of us have typically seizure, we get very overprotective, and we haven't, she's been oppressed in doing what her higher self knows how to do. And so that movement was her integration. And I think these are like significant tools that we want to share, is that in the listening and in the trusting, there is that greater presence.
Yes.
Now, listen to this. This is what Ariel just told me. I just found out only like right before our recording. Ariel tells me that the following day, right, on Friday, she had another seizure. And I think that story, you've got to tell that, because this is the first time she's done this.
Yes. This was a time that I was praying with a special friend who was even putting some flyers onto Spring Street in Eureka Springs to help people know all about silver tea. And I thought that there was something in my body that was trying to attack me and was not getting enough oxygen to my brain, and so my body went right back into a seizure while I was near the auditorium in that wonderful street that felt so busy. And so Kathy Pepperfuss had witnessed a lot of seizures when she worked as a nurse in Texas. And I believe that this was the very first one that she witnessed of mine. She knew to give me a gentle touch on the shoulder, and she knew to not ask questions, and she knew it would take a little patience and compassion to move me through this. And so her touch on the shoulder calmed me down, and I turned onto the wonderful wall that was right there and accepted her energy with gratitude. And my inner self, bright light, decided to light my fire, and I could not grab her hand or bring her along. This was just interesting feeling to just be pushed off the wonderful position like a plane taking off. I literally felt like I had wings on. And so I started running. It was a run. And I went all the way up to where that black railing is on Spring Street. And my divine self told me to grab it. And I grabbed it and stretched my shoulders. I was in a yoga position. And I got my mind to join my body and was just breathing a sigh of relief and started walking back toward Kathy to see what she had done. And the answer to why she couldn't help me nearly as much as a dear woman is because while she was touching my shoulder, the thought she was thinking was doubting her own actions. And my divine self wasn't going to tolerate that. So I decided to use the energy she had loaned me and take off where I could give myself what I knew I needed.
And so this was your first seizure, excuse me, first seizure that you self-facilitated. And mind you, the street that she's speaking of, we have a very tourist town. So that means there was lots of pedestrians, there's lots of traffic, there's lots of stores, and you were in complete seizure once again, and bright light guided you, instructed you, and you successfully came out of your seizure after first successfully doing your fast pace to integrate your body.
Yes.
I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed. And I think, you know, one of the things I want to remind those viewers that are actually catching up with this, I'd love to hear more experiences like this. I'm going to imagine there are a lot of people out there that are having a similar experience, are having seizures, know that there's a greater awareness, a greater consciousness, their divine spirit that's really wanting to guide and prompt, but you may not be in a safe enough environment or with people, like you said, that trust the intuitive prompt to just go with it. So if there's anyone out here who knows someone, or if that's you, you'll see that my contact information will be along with this video. And I would love to hear from you. And I think I want to go a little bit further here. My sense is that when I'm with someone like Ariel, and you know we have many people in the world like this, and you really sense the specialness of the being, because there's such a transparency of spirit. And you note that our special selves, and I think of myself as special too, but how important it is that we have environments that feel safe, environments that are nurturing, and often environments that are quiet. And I think that's why each of us have found each other, because we resonate so well with the Mother Earth, you know, just the quietude of being in a sanctuary. And I think that's what creates the environment that allows our greater spirit to come forth. And I think, you know, Ariel's experience is, to me, it's a barometer of the consciousness of the world, that we have spirit coming into body. And that says something. That says something about our world is feeling safer. Now, I know you may not think that right now, especially after our elections. I know there's a lot of concern, but allay your fears. This, to me, is the other experiences on our planet right now. And for a divine spirit, for that spiritual presence to start to move into a body, a very delicate body, okay, and is saying that the environment in some shape, way, or form is starting to become a little safer, even if it's just a pocket, a sanctuary here, a sanctuary there. I like to think of this as a good indication of our times.
Mm-hmm. It is a great indication of changes coming along, and it also bloomed a wonderful memory, these two experiences. There's a place in Texas called Weatherford that has a wonderful sanctuary, probably even more than one. And it also has a gifted nutritionist that knows exactly what to do with seizures, to tune into that divine part of us. She loves to call herself Twinkle, and she was willing to let me even reside at her place a whole 30 days. And all of those 30 days, seizures just evaporated like they were never part of me. And I knew that she was talking to me on the divine level, and she was even willing to put aside whatever she was doing and thinking and come play with me and give me a dose of compassion when she heard that request up above from me to her wonderful divine self. Mm-hmm. It felt so interesting. I think it had been like 10 or 12 years since I experienced that, and just wanted to recreate that with more people in this world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. So my first questions from after the seizure was like, Ariel, I know that there was an awareness that was guiding you. Were you aware? And I'll ask you again and let you answer now. It's like I was, you knew you knew what was going on. You couldn't communicate,
right?
But you knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And was like bright light talking within you. How might that experience be explained?
She rarely talks in words. She was talking to me with signals and certain emotions that she calls it telepathic communication. Mm-hmm. And it's something I wanted to be more familiar with. That's how she expressed what's going on.
And do you remember when you came to that dead stop at Site 10, can you share any insight? Like, what was your experience when you took that big sigh, like you had found the spot? What did you know?
I know this was an excellent place to lay down. It was a safe place to lay down because those paths can be so rocky. I didn't want to hurt dear woman or myself. And it was something that Bright Light knew. I don't know those stations here, but Bright Light seems to know them all.
And I'll include also in this video the OM Sanctuary, Open Air Meditation Sanctuary, and a website so you can actually go and look at the sites and what we're making reference to. And actually, now that you mentioned the nutritionist, if you have contact information for her, you email that to me or text it to me, and I'll add it to this.
Yes.
It sounds like if there are those of you out there that are having this experience, you may want to follow a resource that Ariel just offered.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she has an excellent website. She would love to share.
Okay, that's good. That's really good. And for those of you that are viewing, if you have any questions for Ariel, you can send them to me, and I'll facilitate those questions going to Ariel, and we will respond in a personal email. And then, I don't know what else, this is when we came up and we were sitting under the tree, mm-hmm. and I was sharing my experience. What was your sense of, our spirits, and I right now I call either my higher self Archangel Blue or BlueStar, which is why I brought that name forth, and I added it to Dear Woman. But BlueStar and Bright Light were in this absolute communion. Now, how was that experience? Was there any insight around that, recognizing how we were telepathically connecting?
I felt the telepathic connection. I didn't hear much, but I was really overjoyed because I knew I wasn't going to have to pretend there was plugs in my ears because of negative affirmations and critical thoughts from her. And so I felt overjoyed and willing to rest instead of crawling and running away.
So as I'm witnessing right now, is you are in amazing elation, and I'm just as giggly. I mean, I'm as elated, and this is the result of, okay, so not only is more energy of the higher self infused into the body, it's more integrated in the physicality, but I wanted to share with all of you and get to witness the joy of receiving oneself, I would say, receiving oneself, and that perhaps with whoever is viewing and getting to experience this exchange, that if there are people in your lives that you know are having these similar experiences as in seizures, that perhaps you could tap more deeply into your intuitive self and reconsider how you could offer that intuitive presence to the individuals that you are assisting, or the individuals that you love and are having these kinds of experiences. I mean, granted, everyone's very individualized, and this isn't going to necessarily work for everyone. But if Divine Spirit has chosen bodies that have different physicality, specifically for the purpose of our spiritual selves coming in, then it may be important to start noting and viewing our brothers and sisters in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Ariel, are there any parting words you'd like to give to our viewers?
I don't think so. I really appreciate it when people ask me questions at appropriate times. It really helps me understand what direction I can go with spreading the truth.
And are there any particular questions or ways to approach you that would be of more of assistance?
I think it's remembering to address all the thoughts that pertain to anxieties, fears, and doubts. They need to have that thoughts of love to address them and let the love help them through the experience.
Well said. Well said. And actually, I would love to have that sensitivity with all people.
Yes.
So basically what we're saying is we come back to that whole understanding of have your thoughts and your words and your actions be impeccable and be from your heart. And therefore, we allow for more receptivity and more of our higher selves to be present.
Yes.
Yeah. It's in the love.
In the love.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing your story here. I think it's important, and I hope it has helped viewers. I hope we've touched your heart, and we hope you walk away giggling. May we dedicate our relation to you and the entire world. And thank you.
Thank you.